Well, good morning. This is Mary Kay from Country Music Matters, and I've got the privilege of spending the morning at Red Rock Canyon in outside of Las Vegas with Michael Peterson.
Yeah, amazing, right?
Good morning, Michael. It is
Good morning.
gorgeous out here.
It is.
So this year you're celebrating the 20th anniversary of your self-titled gold-selling album. The album gives us great hits like Drink, Swear, Steal and Lie, From Here to Eternity, which was your first number one. But do most people actually know this is not your first self-titled album?
Probably not. Yeah. In 1980, probably 85, I got signed to one of the major gospel labels through the great pop artist Denise Williams. I don't know if any of your viewers will remember Denise by name, but they might remember her biggest hit was a song called "Let's Hear It for the Boy," which was in the Footloose soundtrack. And Too Much, Too Little, Too Late with Johnny Mathis and a lot of other great hits. Her husband and I played football together in college. And, when I got out of college and was beginning my music career, he produced a record for me. And when they got married, they signed me as their first writer and their first artist that they were managing. And so she got a production deal with a label called Sparrow Records. And they signed me to my first record deal, and that was the first Michael Peterson album.
Now the '90s were big in country music with a lot of young guns coming out. And how was your transition into country? And what were some of the roadblocks you met and maybe overcame?
Well, the transitions in all of our lives are full of wonderful surprises. So I knew that if I wanted to learn about country music songwriting, because really, honestly, I wasn't trying to be an artist as much as I was trying to be a songwriter. So I would go to Nashville, once a year and knock on doors. And one day a friend of mine that I'd met there said, "Hey, if you don't come here more often, nobody's going to take you seriously." So he said, "You got to come here more often." He said, "If you do, I'll help you." And he was executive vice president of BMG Music Publishing at that point in their gospel division. And he had a lot of friends in town, songwriters. And so I made a decision I'd go. And so I went to Nashville for a week, a month, for almost 3 years. Just every month I went in for a week. And it was during that time that I began to really build my relationships and build my understanding of sort of a Nashville approach to songwriting. And, that all resulted in, one day standing in the basement of EMI, waiting for dinner with a guy, an engineer who was working on Emmylou Harris record. A guy walked by me, and I guess I looked like somebody to him. So he stopped and he asked me who I was, and he gave me his card. Turned out he was one of the senior VPs of A&R at EMI. And the sort of funny how things happen. Like he said, "Well, come see me, play me some songs." So the next day I went to see him, and I was playing him some songs. And we'll stop for the minute, because I don't know if this is going to be, did that bother you? Okay, all right. So I went to play him some songs, and it's funny, you have your big moment, right? And you're going to play this guy some songs. I get about halfway through my first song, and I can tell that he doesn't look that impressed, And so about halfway through that song, there's a knock on the door. And the door just kind of opens up. I'm thinking to myself, okay, what could happen next? I'm in the middle of playing, I'm already losing this guy, and there's a knock on the door. Well, a guy sticks his head in the door, and it's a friend of mine. I can't believe it, it's a friend of mine. And he says to the guy that I'm playing for, "Hey, have you played him the Hamburger song?" And I'm thinking to myself, dude, you're killing me here. You're interrupting my meeting. Now you're telling me to play him this novelty song that I wrote that no one's ever going to like. And so the guy that I'm playing for, obviously, he wasn't really digging what I was doing as much. So he said, "Well, what's the Hamburger song? Play me the Hamburger song." So I thought, golly. So I did. I played him the Hamburger song, and he started laughing, and he got a big smile on his face, and he stood up and he said, "Do you have 15 minutes?" I said, "Yeah." He left, he came back, he said, "Follow me," took me upstairs to meet the president of EMI Music Publishing. he said, play her the hamburger song. So I did. And, a month later, they offered me my first publishing deal in Nashville. So,
Over a hamburger.
right. Just funny the way funny the way things happen, I guess what I'm saying. So, and I could give you a dozen stories like that about where things just happened because, you were in the room. And my friend was right when he said, if you're not here more often, it'd be a lot tougher for things to happen for you. So being there, becoming a part of the culture, meeting people, hanging out, growing as a writer, as an artist, all of those things led to, to my first deal. So I didn't sign that deal at EMI. I ended up signing at Warner Chappell about 3 months later because the woman that wanted to sign me at EMI had departed in between the time my contract was issued and the time I had signed it. And so I ended up, kind of hanging out for a while, working at BP, from midnight to 6 a.m. so I could write songs all night while people are stocking shelves, and it was just a fabulous journey in my life.
Now, you had 2 more albums released after your debut one. They were Being Human and Modern Man. What was your thought process as you were going into those, hoping maybe they would be as successful as the first?
Well, after the first record happened, Warner Brothers, we were at the 5th single, and Warner's was putting the pressure on me to come out with a new record. Because, they have their way they run their business, and that all is their thing, right? So, made the second album, and, politics, whatever you want to call it, ended up departing Warner Brothers. Ended up at Sony, took a while to get that happening. And the record at Sony, again, it sort of took forever to get it done. From the time I signed at Sony to the time the record came out, it was almost 2 years. And, a lot of water under the bridge in 2 years. So the short version of that story is, I left Sony and the album was never released. So then, you say, what am I going to do, And I really remember just getting by my side of my bed and just saying, hey, whatever you want me to do, show me what to do. And so over the next, that was probably, 2003, 2004 that I left Sony. And from then till now, which is 13, almost 14 years, I've made another 8 albums that I've made and sell them at my shows. My fans know where to find them. But I never quit making music. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say is I never quit making records and never quit touring. Just continued to do what I was, doing around the world, really, all over Europe, all over the U.S. And just really, you asked me what my thought process was. My thought process was something that my grandma said to me when I was just a teenager. She said, play if they like you, play if they don't. Play if they pay you, play if they don't. Just go play. Do your thing. And let the rest of it just sort of play out in the way that it will. So for me, how that's played out is 18 albums in 20 years. In 25 years, I guess if you count the gospel albums. 18 albums in 25 years. A lot of friends, a lot of fun, a lot of great music. Over 1,000 songs. And now this new album, which, I'm pretty excited about because it seems like there's a lot of interest in that. And, I think that the doors are opening up again, maybe to be more back in the spotlight.
Well, there's still people would say, Michael Peterson, where's he been and what's he been doing? And
Sure.
and you were involved in Branson for the Country Vault, raiding the Country Vault. How did that all come about? Were you there 2 years?
Sure. I moved to Las Vegas 5 years ago. So I moved to Las Vegas in 2012, late 2012. And at that point I was doing maybe 185, 190 days a year on the road. And I was doing predominantly 3 things. Working a lot with veterans organizations. My wife is a retired Army colonel and a wounded veteran, so, disabled veteran. So we do a lot of stuff with veterans organizations, music-oriented stuff, and then a lot of stuff with high school students. We have a whole assembly program that we've done across the country, encouraging young people to make better decisions with their health. And then the last thing I was doing was maybe 30 to 35 Michael Peterson concerts a year, And I was pretty content with doing all of that. But there was a show here in Las Vegas that my wife and I went to see. It was a brand new show called Raiding the Rock Vault, and it was at the LVH. And I turned to my wife the first night that we saw the show. It was a classic rock show featuring, instead of tribute artists, they had real rock stars. I mean, Howard Leese from Heart, the bass player for Bon Jovi. I mean, it was that kind of but they're playing the greatest set list of classic rock. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. And I turned to my wife halfway through the show and I said, I just have the strangest feeling there's going to be a country version of this show, and we're going to be in it. So that's another story for another time, but suffice it to say that that's exactly what happened. I ended up being the first person hired and the musical director. And then I got out my Rolodex as the musical director and called my friends that I knew would be great to work with, that had great resumes. And we put together an all-star cast that launched in Branson in 2016. At that time, there was 158 shows, concerts and shows in Branson on TripAdvisor. And, as a brand new show, we were ranked number 159. But, I can tell you this, proud to tell you this, that just last week, TripAdvisor, the new season hasn't started yet, so just last week, TripAdvisor picked our show, Raiding the Country Vault, as the #1 show, concert and show in Branson. So pretty proud of that. In 2 years, we went from basically dead last to #1. TripAdvisor said it was unprecedented. It had never happened, that kind of meteoric rise with a show in Branson before. So pretty excited about that.
Now, are you still involved? Are you going to go back, or is it someone else doing it now?
Well, with the new album coming out, I realized I couldn't do, 150 shows a year in Branson and give the album what I wanted to give it.
Now, this excitement is building on this 20th anniversary project. It'll be released on March 31st. How did this all come about? Who approached you? What got it going?
Sure. Well, as the 20th anniversary year was coming for my first album on Warner's, I just thought to myself, man, wouldn't it be fun to do some new recordings of the old material? And seeing as how I was in the show in Branson and doing classic, the greatest set list of country music performed by an all-star cast, I thought, what if I did my biggest hits and then picked the songs that I sing in the show in Branson and made a unique kind of a greatest hits record? Usually when an artist puts out a commemorative record of their career, they do all their songs. But I thought to myself, I'm going to have all these people here at these Branson shows. They're going to want to leave every night with the songs they heard me sing in the show. So that was the original thought, was let's pick my 4 biggest hits: Drink, Swear, Steal, and Lie, From Here to Eternity, Too Good to Be True, and You Know You're in Trouble When the Bartender Cries. And let's add to that songs like Wichita Lineman, Boy Named Sue, Friends in Low Places, Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys, Most Beautiful Girl in the World, Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. And so that's what we did. We decided to make that record, made that record in August. And right around October, as the early buzz began to happen around this new record, I thought, man, I can't do what I need to do on this album and stay in Branson. So, the idea was to be able to sell that record in Branson, but now it looks like people all over the world are interested in this record. We're currently at #3 on the British Hot Disc chart, not the British, but the European Hot Disc chart. My new single for here in the States just shipped this week. So first time I've had a single go to American radio in 15 years. And pretty excited about that. We're shooting a new video for Drink, Swear, Steal, and Lie, which we're putting a new version of that out in LA next week. So, a lot of fun stuff happening.
Now, how difficult was it to pick the classics to put on this album?
They were the songs that I was singing in the show. So they just was so easy, And I would have probably stayed clear of singing these iconic covers. Think about it. Is there anybody that's covered Friends in Low Places? Probably not, right? Not anybody that's had a real career, Why? Because it's sort of it's such an iconic song. So songs like that, I would, Wichita Lineman, not too many covers of that around. But I sang those songs 400 times in 2 years, in less than 2 years in Branson. And I just thought, I know these songs, I know them well, and I have my own version of them. So, you know, it was, and really my intent was to pay tribute to Glenn Campbell, to Johnny Cash, to Garth Brooks, you know, by doing my version of these songs and, you know, reminding people of how great these songs are.
Now, you have one new song on the album called Borderline.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
The song was written by, among others, there were 3 people that wrote the song, but Stephen McClintock, who's my co-producer on the album and the owner of the record company. And so he brought this song to me and said, hey, I'd like to put one new song on the record. You know, what do you think about this song, Borderline? And I just loved it. So, you know, it made sense to record the song. I think the whole idea of a borderline at this time in our history is sort of a hot button for conversation. And I think regardless of your politics, I think most of us can agree that love, you know, knows no borderline. And, you know, I have a son-in-law that's from the country of India. I have 2 little grandsons that are, you know, a blend between, you know, my daughter and this young man from India. I love this, you know, and I know when I look at my grandsons, you know, that love knows no borderline.
Yeah.
My son-in-law became an American citizen 2 years ago. You know, love knows no borderline, and you know, without being political about it all, there's a lot of different opinions about that, and a lot of strong feelings. I'm not a political guy, and I'm not trying to make a political statement. I'm really making a statement about humanity.
Now, Looking for Love video was shot right out here where we're at Red Rock Canyon.
Actually, it was probably about the same time of morning. Yeah.
Why did you pick this location?
Because I figured if people got tired of looking at me, they'd have something else to look at that'd be pretty.
Because I'm going to pan out a little,
Yeah.
and I'm going to show you guys a little bit of what goes on out here. And the sun is trying to come out.
I know.
It's just amazing out here, and you guys have to see the video just to get more of what this background is.
Well, so, you know, that's the serious answer to the question is, you know, when every one of my videos that did well, not first 2, I should say. Too Good to Be True was a different sort of animal. But if you think about, in particular, Drink, Swear, Steal, and Lie, and From Here to Eternity, they both had these just stunning backdrops. Drink, Swear, Steal, and Lie was like the mountains outside Vancouver, British Columbia, and the woods, and it was just waterfalls. There was just so much to look at. It was a beautiful video. From Here to Eternity, it was shot at Point Reyes Lighthouse outside of San Francisco. It was just gorgeous stuff to look at, and I think that gives you a backdrop to have something that people want to look at. And this is such a stunningly beautiful place.
You did a song with Travis Tritt.
Yeah.
Well,
I passed the
bar, yeah. How did you 2 hook up?
Well, Travis was managed by a guy named Gary Falcon and another guy named John Goodman. And those were the guys that were managing me. And I was a brand new artist, had a deal on Warner Reprise, and, you know, they went to Travis and said, hey, would you do a duet with Michael Peterson? So it's pretty simple, really, straight ahead. Yeah, well, we became friends, and it was fun.
I love that song.
Thanks.
I think it's really cool. So you're planning on a European tour
Yeah.
to promote the album and the song. What about a U.S. tour?
Boy, working on that right now. You know, after being in Branson for 2 years, you know, I wasn't on the road traveling a lot. So, you know, it takes a little while. I kind of wondered, you know, how quickly things would turn into, you know, non-Branson dates. I wondered how quickly that would happen. But, you know, we've only been really back in the saddle since the holidays ended, about 6 weeks. And last night I counted, I already have 21 dates on the books for this coming year. And I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the year we'll have 120, 150 dates on the books. And that's, I would say that's the most music dates that I've had on my tour schedule in 10 years. So really good things are happening.
So you've got a lot going on for
tons
this
going
year.
on, yeah.
For this year.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I'm doing all these great interviews with people like you.
Thank you. What are, and this may be a tough question, what has been some of the proudest and most prolific experiences or moments of your music career?
For me, Kelly, that's such a big question, you know. There's so many memories in a 20-year journey. I mean, obviously, a friend said to me one day, you have a better chance of being struck by lightning and surviving than you do of having a #1 record on a Billboard chart that you sang and wrote. So obviously that's a milestone. To have 3 #1 records, which, you know, a lot of people just measure #1s by Billboard. But there are several that really you'd consider major country music charts. CMT would certainly have to be one of the major country music charts. So my first 3 songs were all #1s on CMT, and all top 10s on the Billboard chart. So those are career milestones that I think you have to say, those are really great. But when you think about sort of the human experience part of it, it's sort of apart from, you know, the accolades or awards, the highlights of my career have all been about moments with an audience, moments with friends, moments when you wrote a great song that made you feel something that no money can buy. You know, those have been the greatest moments of my career, have been my human moments. You know, riding in the car from Atlanta to Nashville with you know, my manager Stan Moress, and laughing about something funny, or having my kids on the road with me when they were little, Amanda and Lauren, and you know, experiencing the look on their faces. You know, taking my daughter to a concert with that band that Beyonce was in. I can't remember the name of it, but you know, seeing my daughter look at Beyonce and
Destiny's Child.
Destiny's Child. Thank you. We're sitting right next to Brenda Lee. We're on the front row of this concert. I've got my kids there, and I got these great tickets because I've had a career in the music business. They got me these great tickets, and watching my daughter standing on front of the stage and reaching out and touching her hand on Beyonce's foot, and turning around and looking at me and smiling with a look for the ages, right? This young woman with this beautiful look on her face of she can't believe she's here. Yeah. Standing in Vanderbilt Stadium on the floor watching the Rolling Stones as the end of the concert happens, and the whole stadium is filled with confetti. These are opportunities I wouldn't have had in my life if I hadn't had from a music business career. You know, being in France at a concert there with 10,000 people, and at first wondering, like, are they not liking this? And then realizing, no, they're not. They're not acting like American audiences because there's a different thing over there. They've got their microphones out there, listening. They're acting. They're showing their like for the music in a not a more respectful way, but in a different way of respect. You know, you go to American concerts, if they're really loving it, they're screaming and yelling. Over there is a different thing. Like just things that you learn. Standing on an elevator in Switzerland, getting ready to play the Gstaad Festival, with Danny DeVito standing next to us. He's on the phone with his wife, and he says to his wife, "You'll never guess who I'm in the elevator with." He says to his wife, right? Rhea Perlman. So I mean, just the funny things that have happened. The friends I've made. The great Gene Pastilli, you know, who passed away this last Christmas, who wrote, you know, Too Good to Be True with Me, but he wrote Too Gone for Too Long, which was BMI Song of the Year. He wrote Sunday Will Never Be the Same for Spanky and Our Gang. He was a founding member of Manhattan Transfer. Produced Jim Croce. Became a mentor of mine, a close friend of mine. You know, those are the things. Those are the richest moments that when I look back, you know, not the accolades. 9 tours to Afghanistan and Iraq. Over 150 concerts, sometimes for 3 people, sometimes for 1,000 people in war zones. You know, just learning how to be an entertainer when you're in a war zone. You're with young men and women who, you know, maybe been 5 years old when you had your hits, you know, and in the early part of my career. And you know, learning that the most important thing to do is just to get them to laugh, to drop their shoulders, and to see them laughing when, you know, that 4 hours before they were kicking down doors, looking for bad guys, you know. I mean, just those moments, you know.
What?
I know I gave you way too much.
No. That was wonderful. What advice would you give some of the artists today, or even the ones just now stepping into the arena?
I think I'd give them the same advice that my grandma gave me. Because, you know, careers have arcs. And the accolades, you know, if you measure yourself, you know, your worth and your impact just by externals, you're going to miss part of it. Because those things are great. But you're gonna have an arc in your career, you know, ups and downs, and you're gonna have moments in the spotlight and moments when you're not in the spotlight, and if I'm right about my hunch, moments when you'll be back in the spotlight again. You know, play if they like it, play if they don't, play if they pay you, play if they don't. Go play, and things will happen, you know. A lot of people got discouraged because, you know, the things weren't happening on the externals the way that they wanted. They didn't get the deal they wanted. They didn't have the hit they wanted. And they, you know, they went a different direction, and that's okay too. But I just didn't do that. I just kept playing. And I think that was really, really good advice. Do what's in your heart to do.
Now, where can people find all your music and on social media, and where can we find you at?
Yeah. You can find all of my music at this point if you go to Michael Peterson, that's Peterson online, michaelpetersononline.com, and go to the jukebox. All 17 of my albums, the new album's not posted there, but all 17 of my albums are posted there. You can stream them, you can, you know, enjoy them, play them. Some fun stuff that's never been released is there. Some of my favorite demos, and just interesting live performances. You can find me on Facebook, obviously. Easy to find me there. You can find me on Twitter at MP, capital MP Music now. Golly, you can find me on Instagram. And you can find my new album on Spotify. You can find my new album on 37records.com. That would be the number 3 and 7 records.com. And you can find me in a city near you, I guess, playing shows soon.
I hope so. Michael, thanks so much for your time this morning. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks.
I'm glad I got to catch up with you, but I am going to pan over a little bit more and show these people what goes on, that Vegas is not all about the Strip. We've got beauty out here. So when you see his video for Looking for Love, you'll see more of this.
Yeah.
So go and check out Michael Peterson. And it's Mary Kay from Country Music Matters. Thank you.
Mary Kay.